So I want to talk about courage and care in crazy times. Those are the words that came into my mind right now. And as always, I jump on. It's off the cuff. I have no idea what I'm going to say, but this is the topic. Because we're in crazy times. We are. And it doesn't matter what, I hate using this word, but it doesn't matter what side of the narrative you are on. It's crazy for everyone. And it's really easy when we get stuck in sides, especially given that we have a system, governing bodies, media that induce that division, create that division, encourage that division. Whether one is aware of that or not, that is what happened. It's what's happening. There's, they feed off of division, right? And I think this is the underlying lesson that as a humanity we're needing to learn, is that in our diversity, we can still be unified and be strong as a collective because of that. But what that requires is care. And what I see in the world is there is a huge lack of care. And the thing is that care, how do I say this? There's a righteousness on either side of the fence, which acts as if it cares, but the actions are not caring, right? So you see a lot of people being really mean, really, really mean. And so even if your intention is to save humanity, right? That's a big saying, but save humanity, whatever side of the fence you're on, if our actions aren't done with care, truly caring, it just doesn't mean anything. We're just creating further division. Right? And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for both sides. Again, I hate the term, but I'm going to just speak to it because we're in it, right? We're in it. We've got to acknowledge what we're in before we can change anything and evolve beyond it, through it, beyond it. I think that these times are requiring a tremendous amount of courage. And I'm not saying because there's still a tremendous amount of fear. My personal opinion is it's very induced. But there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of, the ground is being shook beneath our feet. And we don't like that as human beings. We've gotten very accustomed to routine, to predictability, comfort, ease. And at the same time, it's like one needs to till the soil before we can plant seeds and grow a healthy crop, right? And I think right now we're in the tilling of the soil because the crops haven't been healthy. We haven't been living in a healthy world. And so it's really necessary that things get shook up. But it requires a tremendous amount of courage. But I always think about, well, what is the root of the word courage? It's cœur, which is heart. And so courage requires heart. And care comes from the heart. I think this is the invitation to come back to again and again and again. There are people in my life, there's one person in particular who I deeply, deeply care about. And we, if you want to put it in this context, are on two different sides. And no matter what, we cannot convince or see through the eyes of the other. We're both very steadfast on our individual perspective or reality or whatever. Let's call it perspective. And yet, because there's so much care, there is this desire to just come back to that place. It's painful. It's painful that the division, let's not say division for this. Let's say that in my mind, it's like two realities existing simultaneously. That's painful, right? And yet the only way to bridge two sides of the bank, of the river, I should say, is care, is love. And I think it takes, in this sense, almost more courage to be loving, because it's easy to be mean. It's easy to argue. It's tiring. It's very unfulfilling. It's painful to the heart and the soul. I don't know if anyone walks away from being mean and is like, yes, I feel better about that. Maybe, but then I don't think you're being honest with yourself, not with your true, authentic self. So I think it takes courage to be like, wow, okay, there still might be a massive, massive disagreement. But where we are in the world right now, people are being judged and condemned for simply making a choice that feels right for them. Things are very upside down, people that are I'm having trouble knowing how to articulate this, because I'm so aware of how triggering anything and everything can be these days. But I see people that are healthy and well, and they're being prosecuted for it. It doesn't mean anything anymore, because it doesn't fit into a narrative that we're all meant to agree with. And if people question that narrative, there might very well be a good reason for that, right? But at the heart of it all is just that we've lost touch with ourselves. We've lost touch with nature. We've lost touch with what is natural. And in many ways, we've really lost touch with our heart. And for me, my belief, I'm sorry if I talk about it too much, but my belief is that that's the center of being a human. That is like our biggest source of power. It is so underestimated. We give so much power to the mind, but the mind is so easily manipulated. The mind is a tool. It can be used as an amazing tool, but it can be hugely detrimental as well if it's not used in the right way. There's an abundance of proof of that. But the heart is just this incredible, potent energy. I mean, now finally science is catching up, right? The frequency of the heart. And the frequency of the heart, how it elevates itself depending on the emotion that we feel and the energy that we feel, right? That's you can look into that, right? It is being shown, it's being revealed, whereas, you could say spirituality has known it for thousands of years. I really feel like we all need to be courageous right now, which means we all need to drop into our hearts more. And the question that I would ask everyone right now, and it doesn't matter what side you are on, is this the world that we want to live in? Is this the collective community, the global community, you could say, that we want to be in? Is this the way that we want to treat people and be treated? Is this the way we want our governing bodies to treat us? Is what's going on okay? Is segregation okay? Discrimination okay? Is judgment okay? Is censoring okay? these are all questions that are really important to ask ourselves, and they take courage to really sit with, and not just have a knee-jerk response to it, or a regurgitated response of what, one maybe sees on the television or reads in the paper, or, it takes courage to sit with ourselves and feel into what feels true, what feels right. We're in crazy times. There's no question or doubt around that. And I think the only way that we're going to evolve through this is if we remember what truly matters. Like, I always think, go back to being a child. Imagine being in the schoolyard. Nobody liked the bully. Nobody liked not getting along or being kept out of a group, or, a child has a natural inclination to belong, to be a part of. And actually, children are really good at, they have actually a great ability to collaborate. If something doesn't work, they can't play the game, right? They have to collaborate in order to play the game. Children are actually quite good. If they're not interfered with, they're actually quite good. They're quite innovative. They're quite creative with that. They have their stuff. They get in arguments, but there's a way that they come back to one another. And I think as adults, sometimes we get really stuck in our ways. We get really stubborn. We get righteous. We get proud. We get defensive. Because maybe we've been hurt and we've been wounded. We hold grudges, whatever it is. But I think the invitation is to come back to that kind of purity of when we were young, and perhaps more present, perhaps more innocent. And that's a beautiful thing. That's not a weak thing. That's a beautiful thing. So I just want to put this out there too. I know there are so many people that are really suffering right now and really pained by what's going on in the world, and maybe feeling really lonely, and maybe feeling like they can't go on anymore. And I think it's asking us to dig so deep into ourselves and really embody love and acceptance, because especially if we're in a society that's like, no, you are no longer worthy of being a part of society. You are less than. It's blatant now. It's been around for a long time, but it's blatant now. All the more reason to go inside and go, okay, I don't need the external validation. Of course, I'm all for equality and respect. The dehumanization of a certain group of people to me is completely unacceptable. And given that we're in that, again, the invitation is go inside, be your own inner authority, your own source of validation, love, acceptance, approval. We all need to come in and do the inner work, because we have been conditioned to look to the external for proof of validation, to measure our worth, to tell us if we're good enough, worthy enough, lovable enough. Everything has been the outside. We don't trust our inner authority. We don't trust our inner knowing, our inner wisdom, our inner compass, our intuition. We don't love ourselves because we're seeking for the external to fill the void. And yet it's the external that has ripped a hole into us, to be honest. Because we haven't been nurtured and taken care of, and, to no fault of our parents, but the system, for lack of a better term, has induced this shaming of, or don't feel your emotions, or it's not okay to be you, you're not good enough. It's gone into parenting, into educating, into governing, all of these things. And nothing supports us in being asked the question of, hey, how are you? How are you feeling? How you're feeling is okay. How is your humanity? How is your heart? How's your soul? We don't live in a culture that is supportive of that. If anything, it's like, no, distract, numb, run away from, escape. There's no health, right? We're not healthy. But we can return to that, but we need to return to ourselves and stop listening to the external as a way to measure if we're worthy. We have to come back to our own inner authority. And when we come back to ourselves and we show up for ourselves and accept our entire experience, we begin to trust ourselves. If we trust ourselves, we trust life more. If we trust life more, we're less anxious, we're less afraid. If we're less anxious and less afraid, we're going to stop listening to authority figures that are actually abusive. So this is all an invitation, no matter how goddamn hard it is at times, to come back home to ourselves, to reinstate our inner authority, to reclaim love within us. Crazy times, my friends. Crazy times. Times that require so much courage and therefore so much love. And if we can come back to care, like deeply caring about ourselves, about one another, about life, this planet, the world, our freedom, connection. If we can begin to care, we can change the world in a heartbeat. I have no doubt about that, but we've got to start caring. And as I always say, it always starts with us, inside out. Loving you all from afar. Thanks for listening.